Everything's kind of slick up here, so after a big rain. There's two gray-phased timber wolves, one red-phased timber wolf, and they're very, very gentle. I work with school children and camps and whatever. Not a way to make a living, but it feeds the wolves.
Tonight we are here to hear about wolves, and Mr. Gudger will be speaking with us. He's a wildlife biologist who spent many years working in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and knows all about all kinds of animals as well as wolves, but he has a special connection to and knowledge about wolves.
All animals that us humans have to have names. It's more for the human than the animal. In fact, she never responds to her name. None of my three wolves do. But you can remember her name very easily. Anybody, have you ever heard of Waya? I figured you had. Well, this is Waya, and Cherokee for wolf. Yeah, she's the one that licks more than the rest of them. But she's probably done more programs than the other two. No particular reason, but she's very, very friendly wolf. This is a gray phase timber wolf, and gray wolf, timber wolf, same thing. I've got two more. One of them is another gray phase. Yeah, she is smaller than the other two. She's a gray phase timber wolf also, but she never got quite as big. She had a confrontation one time, and she has an ear that doesn't stand up. But this is Skunkaha. That's Lakota Sioux for wolf. Again, she doesn't respond to her name. I wish she would. But one of them is a red phase timber. The red one is Mohegan. That's Delaware for wolf. How did I acquire Waya and the other wolves? They came from a breeder, a lady up around Candler at one time. She never sold them. She knew they didn't belong out on the open market. The main reason they don't is because people would think they're the dumbest animal in the world. You can't train them, you can't tame them. People think that you can get them to do things on command. You really have to kind of think ahead and kind of like a cat or a child, you have to make them think it's their idea, because you're not going to coax them to do anything. Does anybody have a cat? If you got a cat, then you know what I'm talking about. You don't master the cat, and the cat will allow you to be there. I don't deal with wolf hybrids. They're too unpredictable. In a wolf hybrid situation, the dog's the one that's going to bite you, because they're territorial, they're protective and everything of a family or a person, and I don't take a chance on that. These guys in 33 plus years have never bitten, snapped, snarled, growled, whatever with people. They love children best, they women next, and they tolerate men pretty good. But these are not vicious animals. I've had them long enough. You can't train them, you can't tame them, so I think they're socialized. And I would get them 2 years apart because I didn't know how long they would live, and I didn't want to be without one. I couldn't do a wolf program. We use a wolf in a program. It's kind of like a prop. I have to have something to work off of, and the wolf is what we're interested in. So it's more a matter of the wolf interacting with people. They never leave their leash, because if they did, they would run and not come back. These guys love to run. If they were to get out of here and escape, they wouldn't listen to me. So it would be a matter of playing with them, catching them, and getting them back in here. So that's why the high fence, heavy-duty chain link, 8 feet, is turned in 4 feet to the inside. They love to dig, they love to climb, and they're into not escaping but running all the time. I learned to wear old clothing in there because they love to play, and these wolves are big and strong and heavy. So I started wearing a pair of old floppy coveralls, and that turned out to be a good decision, because I was working on the electricity in there one day, down on my hands and knees, and one of them, at that time I had 4, and one of them hit me from the back and put me on the ground, face down, stood on top of me while the other three came up there, and each one of them grabbed an arm or a leg, and they started jerking and pulling, and they weren't trying to hurt me, they were playing. But all of them had a piece of me, and I couldn't get up, When they needed to scream or holler, that wouldn't have worked. But no, they were just playing, and they weren't going to hurt me. They will grab you, not you, but me. They'll grab me behind the head, and that just shows what they do normally. They don't squeeze, they don't puncture me, but they've got the jaw pressure on a wolf, and I'm sure it's been measured, but I can't remember numbers. It's big. It's enough to break the upper leg bone of a femur on a big elk or a moose or something, buffalo. The wolves were paying unusual attention to the back of the compound here, and I thought that there was a person up there. So sometimes people walk through the woods, and I looked and I looked and I didn't see anything, and then finally I saw something move, and it was an elk. We're close enough that the elk come through here periodically from the national park. And there was an elk, and the wolves were like bird dogs. They were pointing the elk, and the elk was staring at them, and they were probably, I guess, maybe 50 feet apart. But the elk had never seen wolves before, and the wolves had never seen an elk, and they didn't know that they were prey and predator. So I think they thought in the back of their mind that there's something they should do, but they couldn't figure out what it was. So they left each other alone, but yeah, that was great. I wish I'd had a camera that day. So it's big. That's the way they take these animals down, by sheer strength and number and everything. So I had to go along with their little game for a while, and till it was over. When it comes to feeding these wolves, they're fed once a week. They eat 10 pounds of chicken leg quarters in about probably 5 minutes. They crunch everything, they wolf it down, and they have a very good digestive system. It may take several days, but 10 pounds does them fine. They're not really hungry until about 6 or 7 days comes along. They never really look for food. If I have food, I stay outside. I put the food over top of the cage, the chicken leg quarters. It really wouldn't be safe in here to come feed them by hand. Not that they would hurt me, but they're so intent on in eating, they wouldn't realize that I wasn't part of the chicken. I guess I'd smell pretty good. Their compound is probably maybe 500 feet from my house, and it's over a little rise. We're in the mountains over here around Maggie. I come up here to their compound. I check on them twice a day to make sure that they're safe and healthy and everything's going good. But other than that, I try to give them all the privacy they can get. Could I have ended that little game of tug of war on my limbs any quicker? Probably could not. But it wouldn't have made them mad. It wouldn't have escalated or anything. But I knew they weren't going to hurt me. I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I lay there and let them have fun. And after a while, they're so intelligent they get bored. Medical treatment, good question. First of all, they live by themselves, so that they never come in contact with another canine, let's put it that way, to transmit any disease. They're very healthy. They go to the vet 3 or 4 times a year. They receive or get all the inoculations that your dogs do. They are canines. They're fully protected. We're protected, by being around them. The wolves live in the wild about 6.5, and the reason they don't live any longer is the fact that they die of internal parasites, rabies, broken backs from trying to get their own food. Here they don't have to fight to get their food and catch their prey, so they'll live about 10 to 12 years in captivity. Another good question about washing or bathing a wolf. They don't know what you're doing, and that would upset them. Now, it's not going to make them mad, or they're not going to bite you. I don't know that I could make mine bite me unless I did something real dumb. They have a very dense hair coat. Now, most of it is shed for the summer, but these are called guard hairs, the long hairs that give them the color. They're stiff. They keep all the dirt and debris off of them. And then, of course, you got your wool undercoat. need to lose a little more of this, but again, they're up here in the shade, so it's a good thing. If they had to stay in the sun, all this would come off. You'd see nothing but guard hairs. They have to be in a cold weather climate. Yeah, the animals can stress with heat very easily, so they have to stay in either the shade or air conditioning, like in a school or something, or a camp. If they do stress, they go down, and you have to cool them off pretty quickly because they can die from that. In the wild, they're used to staying in the shade. They don't have any trouble doing that. But we're up here where it's constant shade all day. They have continuous spring water coming through, very cold spring water, and that's a good thing too. Different states have different regulations. I'm not supposed to go around and preach the fact that I have pure wolves. A pure anything needs to be in the wild, according to Fish and Wildlife. Pups do not belong out in public. People would get a young wolf, take it home, and they couldn't command it to do anything, so they'd think it's a dumb animal, not very smart. But if you can't train them and you can't tame them, they don't do well, especially inside with four walls. My wolves have never really had visitors up there because of disease possibilities and everything else. And another reason that I don't get visitors now, even at this stage of the game, they're old enough now that they're very jealous. And if I pay too much attention to one of them and not the other ones, then they get jealous and they get upset. We're getting some talking now, yeah. Okay, in 30-something years, 33-something years, I've never heard my wolves howl. They sing, and that's in the ear of the beholder. In the wild, when they sing or howl, it's a matter of communication. We're going to get together and hunt. We're going to eat. We're going to sleep, and the alpha female, which I don't have an alpha female in here now, they pretty much call all the shots. They decide, when to sing and what to do. So I think they sing. Other people think they howl. They never make a noise other than if it's something they can't identify. When the black bears come through, it's not very often, but I can always tell that there's a bear around, because the wolves, instead of howling or singing, they get kind of a yodel or a warble-like sound, almost like they're afraid, but they're not. But they have such a terrific sense of smell and hearing and eyesight that nothing gets by them. They would make a good sentry animal, but not a good guard dog, you would say. They're not going to bark and tell you that somebody's around or an animal is, but if you watch their body language, then you can tell that there is something happening. Everything they do vocalizing is a friendly thing. If it's in the wild, it's all communication. It's like we're gonna go hunt, we're gonna go to sleep, we're gonna go eat, and it lets the whole pack know what's going on, because they may be stragglers out everywhere and they all come in. And again, the alpha female initiates that. But what I'd like to do before I go to, and maybe we'll try it. I gotta wake her up. She didn't do that out of disrespect, going to sleep on us. She's bored with me. You ready to get up? You ready to go? Come on. Let's go. Come on. Get up. She usually yawns and stretches like a cat too. Come on, let's get up. Come on, let's go. Come on. Now that she would like to play. I watch their body language all the time, and she was wanting to play with the male here, but he's not interested. Come here. Yeah. Another thing too, she's not groomed. You don't groom one, but you still wind up with the markings. There's a spot at the base of the tail that's a scent gland, and it's active. They actually use it in wolves. Your dogs have lost that possibility, and dogs are capability, but the dogs are actually descended from wolves, even the little teacup Chihuahua. But nowadays we call that genetic engineering. In the past it was kind of selective. I got a feeling she's not going to be receptive, but we're going to try. I'm going to start, and you help me, and maybe if we make enough of the same noise, then maybe she will. that's kind of pitiful, but she tried, you know. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it. About 36 years ago, I found my first timber wolf. There were many more to come, and I'm often asked which one was my favorite. Well, that's easy. She just passed away. Her name was Waya. That's Cherokee for wolf. She accompanied me to most of my programs, and she'll surely be missed. I bonded very closely with her, and she was my companion.